Good afternoon, members. We're so excited today to bring to you our state auditor, Mr. Gary Jones. And Auditor Jones, we're so thrilled to have you here today. And we're going to be talking about a very, very important subject that affects every single teacher in this state. And that is the issue of our state pension, which is very controversial right now. Would you bring us up today, Auditor Jones, on the bill that is dealing with this and the authors of the bill and exactly what's really going to happen?
Let me just say briefly that my wife retired after 36 years teaching. My daughter is a teacher. My sister was a teacher. My sister-in-law. And between my wife and I, we have 5 nieces and 3 nephews that are teachers in Oklahoma. So
it's genetic.
It's genetic. But that being said, there was a bill that was passed that basically changes the structure of the pension system from what's called a defined benefit, which basically says that your pension's figured based on the number of years multiplied by your salary and a factor to determine that you'll get a set amount in retirement benefits when you retire. That's been, this would change it to what's called a defined contribution or a 401k, more like a savings account that you would put so much money in and the state would match it, match from either you're required to put 3% in, could put as much as 7%. Initially, the state would match that dollar for dollar, but the bill says that they'd only be required to match it for sure for the 3%, and then that would constitute your funds to be available when you retire. Now, right now, it's only set up for public employees. It's not teachers, and they've actually excluded some of the public employees, the ones they consider hazardous pay, and then interestingly, they excluded county elected officials. I'm a former county commissioner. And even though it got tiring or stressful at times, I fail to see how it qualifies as hazardous.
Well, teaching also gets hazardous at times. We've had a teacher severely injured in a tornado and more. Right. We've had some of our members have been attacked by students. One has been put in the hospital. So teaching is hazardous nowadays.
It can be at times. And I'll tell you also that the question was asked of the author of the bill as to whether or not, would you commit that you're not going to come back with a bill to put this type of retirement in place for firefighters, for policemen, and also teachers. And his answer was pretty telling because he indicated he had no plans to bring a bill firefighters or policemen, but he did not say teachers. So the thought is that next year may be the year that they try to do this for teachers.
Right now, the way the system works is that the teacher gets employed and part of her check is taken out for retirement, put into the retirement system, as well as the school putting in a percentage as well. And then we also have what's called the state pickup, where the state also pays a little extra depending on the number of years that a teacher works. And for the support staff, also, they can be in the teacher retirement plan if they so choose. They don't have to be, but they can be. And many of them may not even know that they have that option. So, good system, a teacher retires and they draw retirement until the day they die. Now let's talk about this language in the bill. What is going to happen if this thing passes?
Well, basically, and right now there is a state system that you can do like a 401k type system through what's called Sooner Save.
In addition to the current retirement,
right? Or you can set up your own 401k if you choose to. If you don't opt in for the retirement system. I know in the Oprah system there is an optional plan that you can have, but basically, what this says is that there's no guarantee. Whatever amount you put in, whatever's matched, and whatever the earnings on that is what you'll have. And that's the amount of money that'll be available. They talk about the problem that we're facing is the unfunded obligation. We right now you need to understand how pensions work. The formula basically says that if you have a benefit that's promised, in order to deliver that benefit at the time that it's earned, when somebody retires, that you have to make a contribution of a certain amount, and the interest earned over a certain period of time would mean that the money's there in order to deliver that benefit. The employees have always paid their part. The employers, the schools have paid their part. The teachers' retirement system has done a phenomenal job of investing that money. They are consistently one of the top percent in the nation in their investments. And for over a 20-year period, almost every time they're in the top 1%. And they've hit the estimate on the interest earnings. The problem is that the state over the years has not put their contribution in. Something like 11 of the 12 years the state did not put it what they should in. And so whether you have a defined benefit that says you get a certain amount for the rest of your life when you retire, or you have the savings plan, either one of them can be mismanaged. And it's not that one type of system is better than the other, it's just you have to make sure that you manage them properly. And I will tell you that the concern is that they say we have an $11 billion unfunded obligation of all the plans combined. Basically what we have $28 billion worth of assets, but we have $39 billion worth of commitments. If your system is on an incline, meaning getting better, and you pay the amount of money into the system you're supposed to, it'll basically heal itself. And right now the projection is that teachers' retirement will be healed in 17 years if we do what we're supposed to. And if we tweak it and come back and make some changes based on future employment, we can actually bring that down to even fewer years. So this idea that we have this huge crisis, this $11 billion obligation, it's not nearly the crisis they try to make it out to be. In fact, it's not a crisis. It's extremely manageable. And the problem is that basically the legislature over the years have not paid their bills.
Well, let's talk about the comparison between retirement systems. Like, what do our state legislators get? How are they structured? How is the judicial branch structured or the executive branch structured? How do all these, what's the differences?
Well, current teachers right now and public employees, the way it's figured is you figure the number of years of service and you multiply it by a factor of 0.2%. So for instance, if you work 25 years, then 2% would get you 50%, and it's figured on, depending on when you came into the system, on your highest 3-year earning. So a good example is a teacher that averaged $40,000 would get a retirement of $20,000. On elected officials, that factor is 4%, which means that if a state representative made $40,000 and they worked 25 years as a state representative, they would get 100%. And now that's been changed for future, as of anybody that's elected after November of 2011, where it's the 2% just like everybody else. However, anybody that was elected before that is still the 4%.
So let me make sure I understand this. If they were elected before 2011, regardless of the changes now, that 4% is still carried on until they retire.
Right.
Now.
And if they were a legislature, even though they're termed out at 12 years, if they run for another office like a county office, now Oklahoma and Tulsa County have their own retirements, it's not part of it. But if they ran for a county commissioner or a clerk or something like that, then that would continue at that same 4% for the rest of their life, or the rest of their term, because they are, quote, grandfathered in. So you could have an individual serve 12 years as a state senator, a state representative, and then turns around and runs for county office and gets, say they get 20 years. They would actually retire at 128% of their salary.
Well,
so
okay.
So what we're saying there is they get a lot more than what a teacher did.
Right.
And this is one thing we look at this when you start analyzing the system is the average teacher's retirement is very modest. So it's not like some states where they have huge retirement systems, and then a lot of other states have, in addition to their retirement, they have what they call OPEB, which is other post-employment benefits, which means the state would pay for their life insurance and other issues like that. In some cases, that those OPEB benefits are as much as the retirement. Not in Oklahoma. We give like $100 to go towards the insurance of a retiree, but then their insurance is higher than what a current employee is. So it barely pays the difference between what the two plans are.
And that's why many teachers find that they have to go back to teaching just to pay the medical bills.
Right.
So, so then why is there any changes being offered to change the legislators' retirement system because it is so?
Well, what
Other than the one that just currently happened, any other changes?
Well, it is on future elected officials, not the current elected officials. They're grandfathered. In fact, there's some cases to where the elected officials, if they had prior service under the Oprah's plan, that was figured at 2%, and then they get elected to public office. And once they served 6 years, instead of figuring it two different calculations, which would be you worked 15 years at 2% at this salary, and this is what your retirement would be. Then you had, 8 years as elected official at 4%, and multiplied by that, and add the two together. They multiply, or they add all the years together, multiply it all by 4, all times the high 1 year salary. So we have some people that are getting retirement. Some elected officials that are retiring, making 2 or 3 times more than what they earned and what's paid for. In fact, I had a list of people that have retired. One elected official retired at $175,000 a year. We have one that, because they're grandfathered in, if they get elected to one more term, their retirement will be $210,000 a year.
Can you tell us who they are?
Well, I've got a whole list of them. I mean,
Okay.
In fact, it's public information, but you go through and you look at this, and there are currently 600 elected officials that have retired and got this bump up, and there are another 500 people that are in the system that could get that in the future.